Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm stealing Big Sexy's line there, world travelers, so I won't finish it. I'll let him finish it. This is Judge Mentalist here. Another great episode of Big Sexy Digital Nomad. Look, we talked about what we were going to talk about in this episode before this episode, and in just that short a time, I have forgotten. So we've got some things up for you. I don't even remember what, but we're about to get into it here. Yeah, here we go.
Yes, wherever this is hitting your ear holes, I hope this is good. What is happening?
You literally just picked up and finished the line. I love it. That's great.
Yeah. Look, I'm a professional. We've been, look, here's the deal. We've been doing this for over a year now.
That's right.
Right. And when this episode drops, it will have officially been over a year. Our last episode dropped one day before our 1 year birthday, right? So October 5th was the very first date of the first date of our podcast release. Or was it recording? Yeah, release. The first day of our podcast release was October 5th, and then of course the last episode dropped October 4th. Which is why you guys got a special bonus interview episode for that episode. And this one, we actually just going to be a regular, good old-fashioned, big, sexy digital nomad. Now we're over a year-old episode where we get to talk about the shenanigans that are happening in our lives, new travel plans and arrangements, things booked, another unexpected trip that we didn't have any clue where we're going to do once the change happened. So let's just dive into it. Let's get on. So first off, Judge Mentalist, can you believe it's been a year?
I don't even know what to think.
Right?
Time, it just, this past year, like at the time that we started this, if I remember correctly, and it's not me really remembering, it's me just taking note of what things were on my calendar. I had done that trip with Vanishing Inc. to Utah. At the time that we started this thing, I had not been on a cruise because we talked a lot in the early episodes about cruising. In fact, we had Billy on here who runs cruisehabit.com, who's a great resource. He's not paying us to say this. This is just a legit endorsement.
Because he's an awesome dude, and I really support the work he does over there. Absolutely, 100%. Go to cruisehabit.com, check out there, and then tell him Big Sexy Digital Nomad sent you.
Yeah, you were still in Vegas. You had just, I'm like, you guys didn't have the plan really in place at the time that we started recording this. You just knew in general, hey, here's what's going to happen. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, which was fine because that plan changed several times. And look, there's a fluidity to being, travel and being a digital nomad. And if anything, this past year has proven with your journey specifically, it's exactly that. Since that time, I've been on 2 cruises. I've booked a third one, bringing it full circle to cruisehabit.com. I'm actually going most likely to be doing some guest content, which will be shared here and certainly on our Patreon, but also with Cruise Habit, because the cruise that, and I think I've mentioned this on here before, but we've got a 5-day Disney cruise that we're doing over New Year's, and Cruise
It's funny
Habit,
that I am now jealous of you cruising,
which is weird.
Which is weird.
Again, a year ago when we started this whole thing, I hadn't even booked a cruise.
Not once. I was like, he ain't never booked a cruise. He don't know what he's in for. And now I'm like, man, I want to be on the cruise that he's going on.
You'll see a ton of content on all sorts of different cruise lines on cruisehabit.com. But one of the things that there's very little content on specifically are Disney cruises, because most of the Disney cruise line bookings that Billy did were before he started doing Cruise Habit. So, I was excited to kind of cross-pollinate. He's excited about getting some fresh content on a Disney cruise.
That's
big
awesome.
Win-win. you know, because obviously we've mentioned him, we've had him on here. We obviously love what he's doing. We almost
Right.
tried to finagle that December cruise. We will eventually get and have some sort of an event where we've teamed up with Cruise Habit to do a
Yeah,
cruise where
absolutely.
Big Sexy and I are there. We don't know when. It may be another 2 years till we do it. Um, but it's definitely something that we would like to do.
It's
And
coming. It's definitely
and
coming.
invite and hopefully have listeners there for, because it should be a fun time, because cruises are always a fun time. And if you know, and I like that idea because I'm hit and miss on traveling with people and traveling alone. Like, I'm a very good solo traveler, like super comfortable, no problems with any of that kind of stuff. But there are complicated, when you travel with other people, and I don't mean like immediate family members. I mean like, another couple or a couple groups or things like
Right.
that. There's always this kind of weird sort of, how much time are we supposed to be on our own and how much time are we supposed to spend together? I think that
Yeah.
cruise setting is the natural sort of like, hey, these are some set things. Like, we've got dinner times and we're at the same table or whatever. So we know we're going to be together for those things. However, everything else is kind of fair game,
It's
and
funny you mentioned that because when we did my birthday cruise for my 51st birthday, um, the first time on Virgin Voyages, and we were there as a gift to my friend Teresa. Shout out to Teresa, love you, miss you. And we were there with her family, right? Her dad was there, dad and stepmom, and then their friends, right? So it was, me and my wife, her, I'm sorry, her Teresa's dad, stepmom, their friends, Anna and Anthony, and then one of Teresa's school friend, like another family friend, right? So they were a party of five, and then us two, and it really was a dance of, are we all a group now? Do we spend time together? We're in, Facebook Messenger. We're chatting back and forth. When do we see each other? When do we not see each other? I'm very big on group activity, like everybody together and do stuff and hang out and get to know each other or whatever. But people then have their own agendas and kind of want to go off and see themselves on their own. So yeah, it was a very nice balance of, hey, we're going to breakfast at this time, or we'll try to get up and meet you there and get some food together, and then we'll go our own separate ways. Hey, what are you guys doing? Or we're doing this over here. Hey, we're going to karaoke. One, I'm going to karaoke all the time, so that's where I'm going to be. You're welcome to come and join. That
see,
was
that's the
that.
kind of thing where you've got an agenda, so to speak. I'll label it as an agenda
Right,
of doing karaoke whenever you can. I think that's actually kind of helpful in that group sort of setting, because it's you saying, hey, during these times, I will be here. However, I'm certainly not pulling anybody's arm, twisting your arm, or saying that you also have to be there. Just
right,
like
but you really
when
should
I
though.
was when I was at Magic Live a couple months ago, and I thought that it would be important for me to go to my mentor's hypnosis shows each night that he had one while I was there. I put the word out there to all of the people that I knew that were at Magic Live. Hey, just so that you know, I'll be here each of these nights. If anybody would like to go, let me know, because I
Right,
can hook up the tickets, but certainly no obligation. Because
right.
other than somebody that's like in that mix and Brogan with Penn and Teller, who wants to go to the same damn show every night for a week? Like, of course,
Yeah,
that's not a normal thing.
we're not normal because I would.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not
I
a,
mean, to be
it's not
fair,
the norm.
yeah, it's absolutely not, absolutely not. Most people are like, I already saw that. Why would I want to go see that again? And
But
for
again,
you,
that's like saying I've gone to karaoke before. Why would I go again? It's clearly, most of these
kind,
things are different every time.
yes, yeah. But each of the three shows you have mentioned, except for Penn and Teller, their show's not necessarily different every single time, but a lot. There's the minor changes because again, there's a lot
They
of
change that
audience
more than everybody else.
interaction.
Yeah.
Right, there's some audience interaction, and that will change. So that's why I have an improv show that I want to market to cruise ships. I wrote an improv show called whose rhyme is it anyway? Or actually just whose rhyme is it? Where it's a mixture of freestyle hip hop or doo-wop singing and an improv show, right? I put it together specifically for cruise lines where they can hire a small number of actors uh, who are for like transatlantic or really long cruise um, itineraries, because you can have a small number of actors doing the exact same show, but it's different every single time, right? So your people who go to, for like when I was on the cruise, there was a show called Dual Reality, and you guys heard me interview one of the cast members, Kira,
Mm-hmm.
way back like in episode 32 or something. And Kira, no, 32 was Kara. Anywho, uh, Kira and Dual Reality is an amazing show. You know what I'm saying? Fabulous show. But I saw it once. So the only way to make that show interesting again, when I saw it twice, but what made it interesting the second time was that I knew somebody in the cast.
Right.
Right. It's different when but had I not met anybody in the cast, whatever, I know the show already. I want to go see something else. Right. There are other shows that maybe, there may be a band playing that I haven't listened to yet in the different part of the ship that I want to go listen to at the time this show is going on. That's again, shout out to Virgin Voyages. You guys had a lot of entertainment, a lot of different places that really make you want to go back on the ship and experience that kind of stuff again. True story. But so I've been pitching the idea. Well, I've been talking about the idea. I need to actually put together a package and start shipping it to productions, which I learned that on my last cruise because I had to sit down and talk with the entertainment director that they hire out through production companies. I need to find a production company and pitch this idea of the show because it changes no matter what. So they
Yeah.
can put them in the little small, what I call black box theaters, the smaller stage, and if a sailor wants to see it more than once, they can go enjoy it because it'll be a same concept, different show, right? Kind of like the hypnotist show,
Yeah.
right? Like, would you ever do hypnosis on a cruise ship?
I haven't yet. No.
I mean, would you? I know you haven't yet, but would you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if any cruise ships are looking to hire a hypnotist, Judge Mentalist is available for small gigs.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody's got any leads on stuff like that, I would love to get linked up in there. It's my position is still the same as it was when we first talked about me doing these things. Like, I'm not going to be in a position to hop out there for 6 or 9 months at a
6 months,
time.
right.
However, if they've got spots a week here, a week there, I could probably give 6 or 8 weeks out of a year, just not consecutively, because that would just number one, that would kill this podcast.
Right.
But number two, it's just not, between my family and my law practice and everything like that, which have to keep going, a big chunk of time gone is a non-starter.
Right. Absolutely. So any clues on any small gigs? Yeah, hit us up. That would be truly awesome. But yeah, man, like a year ago, right? We were, if you think about it, like a year and 2 months, we didn't know each other.
Right.
We were strangers.
Yeah.
And now folks are hearing us, every single week, multiple times a week. When we've met and hung out and whatever and planned things and doing things and making moves. It's great. It's amazing what a difference a year make, 525,600 minutes. To all my Rent fans out there, what a difference a year. It's crazy what a difference a year makes. And now all of a sudden, fast forward a year later, I'm in Romania. We've been doing the podcast. I've been to Spain. I've been to Lisbon for one day.
You are in Romania, a country that was not on your planning radar. Had we a year ago today mapped out 6 different scenarios, 10 different scenarios of what your itinerary might look like for the first, April through September, October, whatever. Romania doesn't make one of those lists.
It does not.
It
Not
does
even
not.
close. Unless I was able to predict the need to stay in Europe after the 90 days.
Right.
Because I knew we'd be in Europe for about 90 days, but then the process from that was good to go to Central America, pop back to the U.S., and then make our way down to Central America for 90 to 180 days, and then make our way back to Europe, not stay in Europe for 180 days.
Right.
Had we got to like scenario 9 and I was like, well, okay, what if we had to stay in Europe? Then maybe Romania might have been a possibility, because I would have to do research to see which European countries are not in the Schengen area, which EU countries are not in the Schengen. And then maybe, right? Romania, that's intriguing, but I don't know if it had been a real possibility. And yet here I find my black ass in Romania, and have been here for damn near 3 months, and have made some of the most amazing connections and strongest connections that I wouldn't have had I not come here. And it's oddly enough, everybody listening to older episodes know that the plan was to go to the UK after Spain, right? Like we're going to go to actually after Portugal. While we're in Portugal, we're going to visit the UK. And as it turns out, listen to this great segue, we are actually going to England.
Ooh.
Yes. When you're hearing this episode, the day this episode drops, I will be on a plane tomorrow. Tomorrow, going to England. We're going to England for a day. Literally, like, we're getting into England in the morning, or like early afternoon. We're staying the whole day, staying one night, and we're leaving super late the following day. But we had to do that to buy us 1 day in Romania, because our 90-day in Romania would be up on the 17th.
Oh, interesting.
But we can't enter Spain and get another 90 days until the 18th.
Gotcha.
Right? So we had to buy us a day by leaving Romania for a full over 24 hours. Right? So we had to give a full calendar day in there. So the flight we come back on leaves England like at 9:50 p.m., but we arrive in Bucharest at 12:50 a.m.
So let me ask you this. I know that you're not planning on doing this, but this answers a question that I'm probably not alone in having. Is it 90 days total there, or are you resetting the 90 days by leaving for one?
No, it's 90 days total.
90
So
days.
if we stay the extra day, we have 91 days in Romania.
But what I'm saying is this. You fly out on the 12th.
Right.
And back the 13th.
14th.
14th. So is the 14th day 90, or is the 14th day 1?
The 14th is day 90. With that travel, 14th will be day 90.
Right. Okay.
And then you have to get out. You can't be here anymore.
And it's actually not day 90. It's something less than 90, because the 18th will be day 90, correct?
I mean, correct. Yeah. Yes, correct.
But it doesn't. Okay. So how long would you have to be out to
reset the 90 days?
Another 90. Yes.
90 days.
Okay.
Another
90 so 90
days.
and 90. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it started because as we have gone through this, I remember you guys may have been asking me about, maybe you haven't been asking, but I've been trying to figure out. I have not understood the 90 days out of every rolling 180 days. I haven't got it. It hasn't clicked in until I broke it in and said, okay, look at it at 180 days, right? So 6 months. Out of those 6 months, you can only spend 90 days in whatever particular country it is in. Right. So out of that 180 days, you only have 90 days to be in that country or in the entire Shenzhen area. Right. You
Right.
only have 90 days in that 180 days. So if you are in a country within that area for 80 days, then you've banked 10 within that 180. Right. So you can leave and then come back, but you got to get out 10 days later.
Got it. Okay.
If you leave, you've been in the country for 80 days and you leave and you wait until the 180 days from when you entered, when you get back in it, you start another 90 days.
Got it.
Yeah. So if you get out, if you enter a country and then you leave, if you go back to that country on day 181, you have another 90 days. So day 181 for us will be October 18th. And then we'll be able to stay in the Shenzhen area if we don't get the study visa, which I'm pretty sure we're going to get. We'll be able to stay there until January, like January 14th or some shit.
So,
right.
All right. So now this is we're really going to get in the weeds here.
Let's do it. This is the travel podcast. We need to start talking this kind of business.
Your first day in the EU was a day at port in Lisbon on that cruise, was it not?
May 2nd.
And yes. was that so that was not your disembark date, correct?
Correct.
It was one of your port days earlier in the cruise.
Correct. However, because we're on the cruise, they judge the time you are officially in the country by your stamp on your passport.
Okay. So you didn't get a stamp with the cruise.
Correct. And the stamp on my passport was when we disembarked in Barcelona.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think the ports counted for Fox for his paperwork, right, when he entered the time frame, but I don't it didn't count for us because they look at our passport for that kind of
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, but yeah, we're going to England. We're not spending a whole lot of time there. But it's going to be a true holiday. Like we're going to go sightseeing, and we're only going with the backpack. Like we're not taking suitcases. We're not taking any kind of carry-on or luggage. It's just personal carry bags. Because we're only spending one night.
Right.
We'll get a hotel room or we'll get an Airbnb somewhere outside of the city. We'll see the sights. We'll go back to the Airbnb. We'll stay the night. Wake up, see the sights, head back to the airport, come back to Romania. Spend a few more days here. Hop on a plane. My wife just booked the flight to Malaga on the 18th, and then we'll be back in Spain.
Nice,
so, yeah,
nice.
We got quite a bit of traveling coming up, which one reason why we're recording this episode now is so we don't, just in case we don't have to worry about trying to schedule recording time and all that madness as well. Unless we do.
The day that this episode drops, I'm on a plane to Vegas.
Right, exactly.
So good times.
So excited for the upcoming adventures. So listeners, stay tuned. Enjoy. Be sure to go to the Instagram stuff because we'll be posting all kind of stuff there, and what have you.
I feel like I need to get out the calendar over the past year, and I need to count up how many actual nights that I've spent in Las Vegas, and continue to keep that count, and figure out, will I spend 180 nights in Las Vegas before you get back there?
Yes. Yes, you absolutely have to do that. You absolutely have to. So,
Because my guess right now is that I'm probably about 20-ish.
yeah, I don't know. Actually, I doubt if you will. I'm positive you won't. But I would love to know, see how much time how many nights you spend in Vegas. Yeah, yeah. I mean, heck, if you keep traveling and keep getting your delays and spending extra nights, maybe they may bump you up that way.
Yeah.
Because that happened within a year, right? Yeah, this episode's almost kind of a year in review. I mean, hell, you've been to Vegas. Since we started this podcast, you went to Vegas 3 times, correct?
Since we started it, no,
Started the
definitely more.
podcast.
Definitely more.
More than
Because
3.
I was definitely out there last year, November, which was the
Right.
first time I stayed at New York, New York. We did the
We
podcast.
had the meetup.
We had the meetup.
We recorded there, so that was episode 7 and
Right.
8. Yeah, we saw
So
Mad Apple.
that was that.
Yeah, I know we mentioned it before, but
you were
Harrison
still in
Greenbaum.
Vegas.
Right.
That counts as a trip, but that does not count toward the accumulating,
Right, because you're
nights.
counting from when I left.
Correct. I would have been back out there.
February.
Was I there in February?
I
What was
think that
February?
the next time you were there, because I was in California.
Okay.
And you came out because our friends over there at
Hey, buddy, nice podcast.
made their way to Vegas.
That was March into April.
Oh, March. Okay, because Brogan's birthday is April 1st, right? So that was March. So your next time in Vegas was March.
And I would say that probably counts because you had left Vegas.
Right. I was living in California at that time.
And that's when I got the 2 bonus days.
Right.
Then I was out there in April.
That's right, because you left and then came right back.
Almost, yeah, with a very short turnaround. That was when we went to a group of us went to the hockey game. I was out there for the master class. Then I was out there in June to learn hypnosis.
Right.
And then August for Magic Live.
So that's 5.
So 5 trips since we started this podcast. Right. 4 of which
since I've not lived in Vegas.
Since you've not lived in Vegas. So I'm actually going to jot down a note for myself of what those 4 trips are. They were Brogan, Wayne. They were masterclass, hypnosis, Magic Live. And then next week will be the mentalism week.
Wow.
So that'll be this. I mean, that's
and
5.
And you've averaged, let's say 4 nights each time?
Probably 5.
Yeah, 4 or 5 nights each time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking at
Brogan and Wayne trip was it was either 7 or 8 nights because of the extra days.
Because of the extra days, right? Yeah, you were there for like 5 nights, and then
masterclass was probably 7 or 8 because that's basically a full week. Hypnosis was 6 nights, I want to say 5 or 6 nights.
Wow, so you're almost an average of 6 nights each time.
Yeah, probably closer to 6. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to get to 180 by the time you get.
But you may get to a full month. You'll easily get to. I wonder if you get to 90 days. Let's say the 90 days because we're talking about 90 out of every 180.
Yeah.
So let's see if you get to 90 days before I get back. Now, the thing that's not in your favor, of course, is that once we get back to Spain and start the study visa process, we are making plans for me to travel back to the States, most likely on my own, to pick up like winter clothes and any extra items that we need since we'll be there longer term. Right. I am planning on going back with like all the clothes that I need in a carry-on, and that carry-on sitting inside of, and then the empty big suitcase. right? So that I can fill that big suitcase and
And
then
bring two
fly
back.
back. Right. Right. Of course, we're always looking at, if possible, if we both can go and make the trip back together, do so, and then if we can work out to do another transatlantic cruise back over to Spain, that would be ideal.
Oh, hell yeah.
But I don't know if that can happen in wintertime, right? I don't know if there's any transatlantic cruises going from the U.S. to Europe at that time. But that would be amazing. We're also talking about, booking the Virgin Voyages transatlantic cruise in April, right? So flying back over,
Just
grabbing
to
the
cruise
other
back?
stuff, and then make our way back over to Miami, and then hop back on a cruise and sail back.
And they used the Starlink, correct?
Yes.
Internet. So she was able to do all of her.
Well, no, wife took a proper holiday.
Okay.
Yeah, I suppose if she
And
wanted to, she could have, but she took a proper holiday.
Okay. And would she do so again or no?
Maybe.
Okay.
That's one of those play it by ear kind of scenarios. But I doubt if she would, because she was really glad she didn't. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's I'm really looking forward to going to England. The odd part is I have a bunch of friends in England, and I'm not going to see any of them. Right. The Lakeys, shout out to Joe and Alex Lakey, who will get on the podcast hopefully soon. Joe will be, she will be up in Wales, and Alex does IT for the World Cup. That's a very shorthand. He does a lot bigger stuff, but he's doing IT for the World Cup, so he'll be busy with that shit.
Right.
Our friends Sam and Bree, who I think when this episode drops, they were either the last interview episode. Well, I can look at the calendar. When this episode drops, so this is going to drop on the 11th. So, yes. So the last interview you guys heard was my son Sam and Bree on the 7th of October. They live in Tring, but Bree is taking firefighter lessons and classes to be a fighter in Tring, and Sam may be working. Now, Sam, we might be able to see if he can get out to the city, but I think he's working because we're going during the week, right? And then last but not least is my friend Harry and her husband, their husband, but they got a new baby. So we're waiting to see, maybe we might be able to stay with them for the one night. So if possible, we're there. But if not, we're going to get an Airbnb or a hotel. So it'd be really hilarious if I go to England after all this time, after all this planning, and don't see nobody there that we intended to see.
Now, London proper?
Most likely we'll be in London proper or just outside of London proper, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we want to be close, because that's what we really, those are the sites to see if you're not going to have time to travel, right? I don't want to spend we're going to get there in the afternoon. We got to get to our Airbnb and then get back into the city or whatever. So we want to have time to actually do shit.
Yeah, of course.
Of
course.
So listeners, if you have, I would say if you have any suggestions on where we should go, tell me about it and I'll go see it next time I'm there. Because by the time you're hearing this, it'll be too late. But unless you hit me up on the Instagram, or Twitter, like immediately, because we'll be going out the next day. We'll be traveling the next day when this episode drops.
Should pop something on the scoop group. There's a lot of UK scoops that might know some stuff that you need to check out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was talking to Mira. Shout out to Mira Loomer, who's in Scotland. I'll shout out to our good friend Brogan. I'll message them and see if they have any ideas for London. Because while we're looking at a place to go, I did mention Scotland too. I said, Scotland's a part of the UK, and they're not in the Schengen anymore thanks to Brexit. So maybe we go to Scotland. Scotland's fucking stupid expensive.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And Brogan told us that initially that the Scotland was crazy expensive, and so if we go there, that's for later. That's for when we go when we're living in Spain and saving money on rent and we have bankrolls and we have started doing. We've tiered out this podcast and have sponsors and we get sponsors on my other podcast, Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love Podcast. Please go check out and listen to that. When we're making that kind of income, then we'd have to do a proper European tour, and I'll make sure Scotland is on the agenda.
I'll want to figure out when that is. Try to join.
Oh, absolutely,
I don't know
absolutely.
Makes sense with my schedule, but it's funny because
the good news is we'll be able to map that out and figure that out and plan that out, and and look at your schedule and say, hey, okay, when can you go? And then because we'll be way more flexible because again, we're digital nomads. We can, we both make our own schedule. So
yeah, it's funny because friend of the pod, 2 or 3 time guest, Beer in a Backpack, reached out to me the other day, and he's like, hey, I'm trying to coordinate something to get you and another friend of ours from when we lived in Chicago to go hang out for a weekend in New Orleans, Louisiana. Nice. So he's basically like, I'm going to start looking for connects at venues to book you a show down here because I know how to teach you to travel.
Smart.
If I get you on a show, you will show up. And I'm
smart
like, you
man.
are correct, sir. I will make time for a show.
That is a smart man. Awesome. Well, speaking of Beer in a Backpack, I think we should get into, I believe we have some listener mail.
We sure do. We sure do.
So let's get into that. I know that was initially the drop just for wrong answers only. However, for right now, that's going to be our transition into our mail, since that's how we get our wrong answers only as well.
Sounds good. All right, so we've got one here from Michael McKenna, who is a patron. Thank you for that. It's entitled the New Jersey Fringe Festival. Which is cool. I haven't even read this email yet, but I'm excited to hear about it because less than a week from the day that we're recording this, or last week from when this drops, I did a show at the Charm City, Baltimore Fringe Festival. So, hey guys, this is Michael McKenna back with a few updates. I learned to put my name at the top of the letter, which I should have done the first time, and I'd like to clarify some things I said in the last email. Before I get started, though, I need to tell you about a funny story that happened when I brought you guys up with my mom. I was discussing plans of visiting Vegas soon, and when I was talking about the places to stay, she suggested that I ask Big if I could stay with him. I'm like, yeah, about that. Even though I told her what you were doing, she didn't realize the extent of how you were doing it. So we had a good laugh about that. If she listens to the pod, she'd know all this herself, but that's, whatever.
Yeah. There you go. Michael, make your mom a listener.
One step at a time.
Yeah.
First off, why can't
tell her to listen to this episode? That way she'll have it in.
There we go. She gets a little name drop without the name, unless you mention it later in the email.
Right.
First off, why I can't drive. Simple reason is that I zone out way too easily. When I go on autopilot, my mind pretty much goes to another world. He just describes what hypnosis basically is. So please come to one of my shows and volunteer, because if you are telling me that is a mindset that you are in, you will likely go under very easily. You will likely be one of the best volunteers on stage. No guarantees, but certainly worth a shot. And it's not the best thing to happen behind the wheel. Absolutely true. Believe me, I tried. I even took driving lessons a few times, and that ended pretty badly. I had trouble retaining instructions and made a lot of mistakes. After ending up driving the wrong way, driving on the wrong side of the road and nearly hitting someone on my first test attempt, I decided my mind simply was not fit for it. Still kind of shaken up about that day. Wow.
That sounds horrible. That sounds terrifying.
That's serious. But I was also serious about what I said about the hypnosis thing, because I know a lot of what we say is bullshit and joking around. The main reason I'm writing is to tell you guys about my time at the New Jersey Fringe Festival, the weekend-long art show right in the middle of downtown Hamilton. And festival aside, this town is a wonderful place. Walking through the downtown area makes you feel like you're in a small town in the 1950s. And I mean that as a compliment. Streets are lined with shops and apartments above them for the owners. Everyone around seems to know each other. You know, Matt and I had that same experience when we were in Stroudsburg doing a show, like this quaint little town and just a tight knit little community. There's a lot of that stuff on the East Coast and the Atlantic. Festival was hosted by the Eagle Theater, the former movie theater that was converted into a live theater in 2012.
That's awesome.
The stage is very small, but it's a very lively place. Before this, I saw their impressive production of Water by the Spoonful by Kiera
Alegria
Hughes. Thank you.
I got
Are you reading this, or you just know the name?
Oh, no, I'm reading this.
Okay.
I'm following along.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes one of us.
That'd be very nice if I was able to pull that right out of my butt. Oh, no, yeah, of course I know Kieta. Oh, yeah, me and Kieta actually go way back.
It wouldn't have surprised me. The festival, however, had events going on throughout the area. Right across the street from the theater was the main festival grounds. When I wasn't in a show or presentation, I spent a lot of time there hanging out and listening to the live music. I've attached some pictures of what it looks like. I'll let you decide how we distribute those, Big.
Right.
First show I saw was a production of The Profession by Walter Weitz, presented by the Atlantic City Theater Company. And what a show to start with. It was a very surreal show about a guy who was trying to get a job at an agency called The Profession. What is that? We don't know. And the play is about what happens when he realizes he doesn't either and begins to question everything. I would describe it as a combination of The Truman Show and The Twilight Zone. Ooh, that
sounds interesting.
The Profession. Hopefully they put that on somewhere else, because I'm not
to
too
be fair, The Truman Show could have been an episode of The Twilight Zone.
True. Then it was time to go to a presentation called Stigmatized. This was a group of women not only talking about their experiences with abortion, but actively explaining how the female human body works. Very informative. Then came a presentation by John Novick, a politician in Hamilton, who talked about how he turned from a comedian to a politician.
Oh, that's like President Zelensky.
I was going to say, those aren't the same thing. Very awesome guy. He made a very informative speech. He also did a show where the crowd would come up, tell stories, but I couldn't go to that one due to time constraints. Maybe next time. By far my favorite performance of the festival, though, was the Hotspurs, an improv group that does shows all around New Jersey. For the festival, they did a show called Life Stories, where they pulled someone up from the crowd who had a story to tell. You go in the hot seat for a bit to describe your life, and they put on a play based on what you told them. Well,
nice. You weren't with us when we saw Freestyle Love Supreme, right? No, I think me and the wife.
No, I was not.
Only saw that. Freestyle Love Supreme does something like that. They bring somebody up in the audience. They ask them stories about. Actually, it wasn't about their entire life. It was mainly about tell us about your day. Okay. And this dude had lost, like something like 28. Or he won like $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
And was carrying around that kind of cash on him. He had that cash in his pocket. Right.
Interesting.
Right. To say that in front of a huge crowd of people.
Yeah.
And then they took that story and they did a bit where they freestyled about that dude. And they did a whole, characters and back and forth and mixing. It was an amazing spectacle. And then I remember them going, but you may want to call security and have them walk out of here.
Yeah,
make sure you make it to you safely. Yeah.
Let's see. Well, I had a very life-changing move across the country, so I ended up getting picked. Ooh. I
Oh,
ended up
okay.
telling my story from all the way back when I was born here in Jersey, moving out to Vegas and coming back. They put on a whole 45-minute play about it. It was a bit exaggerated. Like, that's kind of the point, but that
That's
was
the
the fun of
idea.
it. And to be honest, gave me some closure about the move as well. Well, that's cool.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And
Yeah,
about
to get something like
45-minute
that
show based on it. Holy
yeah.
shit!
I hope they recorded that, and I hope you got a copy of it.
Yeah, fingers
Or
crossed.
somebody did, yeah. Plenty of other performances I went to during the weekend, but those were the major highlights. I also want to follow up with Judge because he had brought up finding places to perform in the area last time. I sent a postcard, and I have to say, with the variety that I saw at this place, you would absolutely fit right in there. And
I
I,
bet.
with your blessing, of course, will definitely let you know. We'll definitely let you know when they are looking for people next year. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
The show, either my hypnosis show itself, me just doing a standalone hypnosis show, or the Between Two Minds show, I personally feel are perfect for the fringe type variety format because
Absolutely.
the show in and of itself is a two-part show where the first one is a mentalism show, the second part is a hypnosis show. So it's a variety show in and of itself,
Right.
just with two people. So yes, very much interested in that. I again, me finding the Charm City Fringe was kind of I had a conversation with somebody who did a bunch of fringe shows, trying to get an idea of whether or not, because I had no idea really what they were like and what it was like to perform at them. And he's like, yeah, what you're doing would totally fit in there. So I started looking, and the Charm City one was already booked, but they were doing this after dark thing. So, and they were looking for submissions. So I'm like, hey, why not? And they were like, hell yeah, let's do it. So, you kind of have to plan those out ahead of time. At the time that they were accepting submissions, we didn't have the show put together. So by this time next year, or by the appropriate times next year, that one sounds like it falls right before Philly, right before Baltimore. So it would be lovely to
Right.
just kind of work that circuit.
That'd be awesome. Be really cool is if our boy Matt Donnelly also didn't have anything to do with that time frame
Oh
and
yeah.
could do the mind noodler, and then you have to change your show to Between Three Minds. And because you have a mind noodler, a mentalist,
3 hour
and a
show.
hypnosis, do well, you cut it down to an hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever, 2 hours, and but it's Jersey, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna have a huge crowd because of all his Jersey folks as well.
All right. And then, that goes to the Surflight Theater too. That theater on Long Beach Island I told you about. That one, however, is always looking for talent year round. So yes to that as well.
Absolutely.
Especially in the winter during the off season, I highly recommend reaching out to the artistic director to talk about performing there in the summer when the island is hopping. I will do that. Absolutely. So I appreciate that. That's all I have for you at this time, but I promise there's more to come. Things are finally starting to happen here, and I am excited. So good stuff. I am, just so that you know, from a production meeting style standpoint, I'm going to mark this one as unread and keep it in the box just so that I can go back and grab that contact information later.
No worries.
Let's
Actually,
okay, we got a short one. Good. I was gonna say we got one more. Let me see how long it is because we're kind of getting up to it. So yeah, we got another email here, a digital postcard from Joshua Tarr. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Whenever this is hitting,
I have not read this one, and I'm not even looking at it right now.
Question for Big Sexy.
Oh.
You've been on your journey for months at this point, bouncing from place to place. Does it feel like the new normal, or does it feel like you're on vacation or traveling for work or something along those lines?
That is a great question, Joshua. Thank you very much for that. So it's moved in stages, right? When we first did it, right, when we got fresh off the boat, right, the cruise, of course, felt like a vacation because it fucking was. And then Barcelona still felt like a vacation because we were staying in a hotel. right? The hotel in the main city, so it still felt like a hotel. Then we got to Malaga, and it still felt like a vacation because it was still it was brand new. We just got it right. So all this long traveling made it still feel like a vacation. It didn't start.
And the first chunk of it being on a damn cruise ship, I'm sure.
Right. So it was definitely hard to get outside of that mindset. It wasn't until I have to say it wasn't until we were in the Airbnb, the second Airbnb in Malaga in Benamadena, when it started to feel like everyday life. When I found the store that I needed to walk to buy groceries, right? And do full on grocery shopping, and figuring out the bus routes and figuring out train stations. That's when it started to feel much more like everyday life. That's when it started to bleed into one another, right? Because the beach was also right there, so it still felt like I was on a vacation. But then I had to intersperse it with doing house things. Now, of course, since I quit my job before this whole thing started, when I left the complaints department, I haven't officially worked since, right? I do this podcast. This podcast doesn't feel like work, but I work at this podcast, right? I put a lot of time in on doing this, and then me and the wife started another podcast, and I was working on other projects and things of that nature. I thought that I would be teaching dance out there, and I didn't do any of that. I was working on this parenting program, so I thought I'd be working on that and doing those kind of lessons. That kind of got pushed to a back burner because I started realizing that I had to focus on what my passions were. If I was going to actually do quote unquote work while I'm out and abroad, if I was going to be a digital nomad, I had to figure out what my passions were, and my passions apparently this podcast or podcasting and the musical that I'm writing. So I'm really focusing on those two main things, and anything else may become a side project or whatever. Even though I wish I was doing the parenting because that would probably make me the most money the fastest. But here in Romania, it really feels like fucking everyday life because there isn't the beauty and awe of beaches and gorgeous scenery and amazing people and parties every night and cool places to hang out. It's just we're in the room, and if I gotta walk to the store, I'm walking to a store, and it's there's no great scenery. I can find it here, right? But I feel like it really feels like everyday life here, and that's part of the cons of my pro and con list of being in Romania is that it feels like everyday life, and I was really trying to escape that. I really want my everyday to feel like a vacation, and I think that's the goal, and I felt that in Malaga. That's why I think I was happiest there, because every day felt like a vacation, even though I was still putting in work on doing things.
I'm curious, and this may be something that if we have a listener that has experience with this, and eventually I'll probably have experience, I'll definitely at some point have experience with this, just don't know exactly what it's going to look like and where it'll be. But if you are a cruise ship performer, does it feel like work? Does it feel like vacation? Where does that fall?
I can answer that. I can kind of answer that for you because I've had those conversations with a lot of the cruise employees that I know. And shout out to all the friends who are on cruises who are also listeners to the podcast. For a lot of them, it's a mixture of both, right? When they're on the ship, it's work, right? They're working there. If they have a show, it's like being a performer, right? A full-time performer. You rehearsals, you have, things that kind of feels like work, but they port like everybody else, right? So that's when it starts to feel like a vacation, right? Gotcha. They get to go to port and not have to deal with customers. Although, like when they went to Bimini Beach, a lot of the crew members are working at the beach club that is there, right? So they're working on a boat and then go to working on the beach club. So they're always working, right?
Right.
For even and not for just the performers, for the people who like do your bartenders, your wait
For the
staff,
crew.
your the
Yeah.
crew, right? For them, it is just work while they're on ship. But if they don't get every port, but every now and then they I think they rotate different what ports they can get off on and off of, and they take those kind of vacations there, right? Which is amazing. I mean, it's amazing your vacation. How cool that your job takes you to your vacation site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, those who listened to the last episode with my friend Alexa heard me describe cruising as, it's your hotel room taking you from to location to location to new location to new location. I said if you go on vacation, to Europe and you stay at a hotel, right? You get up, you go out, you see some sights in whatever city your hotel's in. You come back, you go to bed. You wake up the next morning, you go out. Now you got to find new sights to see. And you're surrounded by things you already have seen.
Right.
Right. You go out, you try to find something new to do, whatever. And then you go back to your hotel, sleep, whatever. You get back up next morning. Now you got to find even more sites in the same area. But on a cruise, you wake up, you get on a boat, you're doing stuff on the boat, you go to bed, you wake up, you're in a port. You go out, you see some amazing sights, you check out a place you've never been before. You get back on the boat, you do some more boat shit, you go to bed, you wake up, a little bit of boat stuff, you go out, and you're in a brand new fucking place.
Yeah.
You're not seeing anything that you saw before. So you get to explore all that over and again. That is the easiest way I can describe why I love cruise ships so much. Right? The transatlantic I thought was going to be difficult because we're 8 days at sea, and I'm on how much stuff can they put on this boat to hold my interest for 8 fucking days?
Plenty.
In the same boat. The answer was a lot, and the other answer is I'm big sexy, so I make my own entertainment.
It's
and
true.
I teach 30 some odd people how to play mahjong, and I teach a dozen people how to do line dancing. And then I make friends with you give me 8 days at sea, I'm friends with everybody on that fucking ship. Or at least every crew member. Every single crew member, performer, we're buds now. We may not talk as much afterwards, but I will always know you and follow you and share and like and subscribe and do all that kind of stuff and hear about your travels and support you in life. But yeah, man, Josh, thank you for that question. I really appreciate that, and thank you for the letter. And the good news is, both you and Michael McKenna, your names are now going into the hat for potential.
Josh let us know in the email that he's not going to Scoop Fest. So.
Oh well, shit. Well then, your name not going in the hat then. And I don't know if Michael McKenna is going to Scoop Fest either.
We'll find out. You guys are both potentially names in the hat.
Technically, you have if you change your mind, your name is in the hat.
We're gonna keep track of it that way.
Yeah, we'll keep track of it that way.
Changes, right?
Yeah. I think what we'll do is whatever form we use to keep track of, we'll put asterisks by the names of people we know for sure are going to Scoop Fest. And then when it comes time to do the drawing, we will only put those names with asterisks in the virtual hat that we have to pull the names.
Right.
Yeah. So Josh and Michael, you both have opportunity to change your mind and go to Scoop Fest 2024, which I recommend doing because it's an amazing event. It's a great way to do Vegas, and Scoops are some of the best people in the world.
It's true.
Shout out to Matt and Madely's Ice Cream Social. Again, I almost, for listeners of Ice Cream Social, I almost want to do what they do for Penn Sunday School. Right? Because every episode, on their thank yous, they always say, I want to thank Penn for creating this podcast. And then,
thanks, Penn.
Thanks, Penn. I always want to say, thank you, Matt, Madely, Ice Cream Social for being the impetus for this podcast creation. Although they didn't create the podcast, so we don't have to do it every time. So, every blue moon, I'll say thank you to the boys. We really appreciate them for being an inspiration. And also shout out to our friends over there at
Hey, buddy, nice podcast.
for also being an inspiration as well. And
For
shout
sure.
out to Penn Gillette for creating ICS, which helped be an inspiration for this podcast as well.
And so many
And
others.
then I believe we have some specific shout outs for our
Well,
Patreon.
first of all, I wanted to bring something up
Oh, yes.
because
Sorry.
it is relevant to this conversation. So, anybody who is connected to us through that Scoop community and wants to know about other podcasts that Scoops are doing or what have you, there's a new website that is launched called scooppods.com. Also, if you're one of those people who has found us through other means and still don't quite know what this ICS thing is and are interested in kind of branching out to other potential podcasts, it looks like there are 17, 18, and then a whole bunch of other more connected. Yeah, there's like 30 different podcasts on here that you could check out and just to mix up what's in your ear holes. If you're interested.
Yeah, definitely check that out. I recently, when I started Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love podcast, they reached out to me and told me, about the database and whatever. And so I added that podcast. We're on there, which is lovely. So, a lot of the sister podcasts, and there are a lot of fellow Scoops who have podcasts. So look, Scoops, those who are listening to this and people who aren't Scoops who listen to this as well, go to there. And even if you don't have time to listen to all those podcasts, if you have Spotify or Apple or Google Podcasts, I heard is going away, but Amazon or whatever, just subscribe to them because those subscriptions and numbers really help podcasts get sponsors, right? People can look at it and say, oh, they have this many subscribers. Maybe we can help sponsor the podcast, right? So that really helps. Again, if you don't have time to listen, if you have time to listen, great. Even if it's not a podcast you'd be into at all, doesn't matter. Do it. Like go on, listen to it. Not listen to it, but at least subscribe to it to help boost those numbers. And then be sure, of course, to do the same here for Big Sexy Digital Nomad. And then if you want to become a supporter of Big Sexy Digital Nomad, we definitely would appreciate that. All you need to do is go to bullwiththebutthole.com and there you
get
can
your name on this
Patreon.
list.
Yes, get your name on the list. And who do we have on that list over there?
Well, we've got both Michael and Josh Wattar who have written to us today. Sebastian Robbins, Lee Popsicle, Chris Lowry, who is, for those of you who are trying to get into the travel world some more, he is a travel agent. So we'll give him a little shout out there to alpacamybags.com. Nice. You don't have to be where he is for him to help facilitate booking something for you. We've got Bree and we've got Angel. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you very much, guys. We really appreciate your support. Really, really do. If any of those Patreon members are going to Scoop Fest, the good news is your name is also going to be in the bucket as well. Specifically, I'm going to speak to Angel, who I know is in Vegas and is not a Scoop, but should definitely go to Scoop Fest and check it out. Angel is an amazing graphic artist. She created the logo for Rainbow Dreamcatcher, the Love podcast. I'm definitely going to hit her up to create some more artwork for Big Sexy Digital Nomad. And if she has some time to do so, because we also have a merch store at whereisbigsexy.com. That's WEAR, like, wear your clothes. You can put any of our logos, in our emblems and things on gear and clothing and stuff like that. Shout out to Brogan, who created all the artwork that is there now. I'm actually reaching out to some other graphic artists to widen the scope of artistic interpretation of our podcast. So you can definitely do that and check that out. I'm actually going to maybe drop some of the early episodes back when Judge Mentalist was actually doing some of our graphic work for our earlier episodes before that became tedious. And I may drop some of those early episodes as images that you can place on gear as well. Be another great way to support the podcast. We appreciate every single one of you. And, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell a family member's friend or a friend's family member about Big Sexy Digital Nomad. That we may be a great podcast for them.
Listen, if you know Michael McKenna's mom, get her to start listening to the podcast, please.
Right. Several people ask and have her listen to she'll enjoy it. She might enjoy it. I don't know if she'll enjoy it or not. But her baby boy is on the podcast, and we go way back. So definitely.
And if you're already listening, hi, Mike's mom.
Hi, yeah, exactly. And then shout out to one more thing, Michael McKenna. You've done a letter. I think we need to do an audio podcast, and then maybe we even have you on as a guest. I think listeners would like to hear. The next time you do something big in Jersey, you get cast in something big that you need, a show you want to promote, you need to come on and be a guest on the podcast. All right, but in the meantime, y'all, safe travels.
Safe travels.